space. I, space.
Big news, 1957. CBS News now presents the big news of 1957. The events that made history during the year. The sounds and words that made big news in 1957. Reported and placed in perspective by the staff of experienced CBS newsmen who covered these events as they happened, where they happened. Now, here is your narrator, Blair Clark.
This is the sound of 1957. The sound of a new era for mankind, the age of space. Russia's satellite whirling in its orbit around this Earth, sending out of the October skies its message. A message of triumph in man's struggle to conquer his physical environment, and a message of grave warning to the Western world. The beep-beep of Sputnik 1, followed 4 weeks later by the different tone of the half-ton satellite called Sputnik 2, was 1957's greatest surprise and shock to the United States. For it meant that the Soviet Union had leaped ahead of us in the field of rockets and missiles. It was striking evidence of a great change in the balance of power between East and West. Americans were worried. How did it happen? And how could we restore the balance? George Herman tells the story.
This was to have been the great year for America's rocket and missile men. We were to have proved to the world that mankind was taking another giant step forward and upward, and that America was the vanguard of mankind. And then, those are the sounds which roused us from our dream. It was already a troubled sleep because the Russians had claimed during the summer to have successfully tested the world's first intercontinental ballistic missile. Then, on October 4th, came those simultaneously thrilling and frightening beeps, followed by these words from Radio Moscow.
As a result of intensive work by researchers produced and designing people, the first artificial Earth satellite in the world has now been created. This was
tiny tape recorder in Explorer 3 brought the world the first word of the deadly belt of intense radiation, now called the Van Allen belt, after the Iowa scientist who devised the scientific instruments used to detect it. Meantime, the Air Force, under direction of the Advanced Research Projects Agency of the Pentagon, was preparing an attempt to reach the moon. An experiment to find the upper limit of the Van Allen belt was worked into the Pioneer lunar probes of the Air Force. The first of the Air Force's 3 probes was another depressing failure. The second was not exactly a success, but made history nevertheless.
Is that zero now still sitting on the launching pad? We should see ignition. There it is. There's the flare. American moon rocket is off and into the air. It begins to rise out of a cloud of steam now, climbing rapidly up into an almost cloudless sky. First big white flame at the bottom. Here comes the roar of the sound of outer space. Beginning to reach our ears here about a mile away. Continuing to track the moon rocket right on up into the heavens.
The second was novel, which rose about 67 degrees nevertheless. Its single scientific experiment worked throughout the rise and fall of the Army's
That zero now, still the launching pad, we should see ignition. There it is, there's the flare of the American moon rocket. It's off and into the air. It begins to rise out of the cloud of steam now, climbing rapidly up into an almost cloudless sky. Big bright flame at the bottom. Here comes the roar that sounds of outer space. Beginning to reach our air about a mile away. And our long limited to the Indian and tranquility
have taken place during the morning.
Clear the area for takeoff. The blast will be radioactive. Clear the area for takeoff. Everybody away from the spaceship. Clear the area for takeoff.
We had said goodbye to our families. Our tall, slim spaceship gleamed in the floodlights like a gigantic silver bullet aimed at the sky. This would be man's first journey to the moon. 4 of us were going. At the last moment, our radio man fell sick, and my young son Tony was going in his place. The airlock closed behind us. Buckle yourselves down securely, men. The starting acceleration will squeeze us like oranges. Start the gyros. Everything ready, General Thayer, Sweeney, Tony? Count off for firing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Tommy, lie down! The acceleration will break your back!
What's happening, Daddy? I can't move!
We'll be on its full. You see, out here in space, there's no weight to anything. We've reached outer space, men. You can take off your safety belts.
Now I know how a bullet feels when it's fired out of a gun. Hey, what's going on? I'm floating around. Now I'm walking on the ceiling. Hey, Dad, pull me down.
Well, the Earth is like a gigantic magnet, son.
Frank Borman says, Roger, we saw it. We saw it light up. We saw it shut down.
The shot was aborted, but 3 days later it lifted off on schedule, and 5.5 hours after that, the 4 astronauts in 2 spacecraft were close enough to look through the ports and see each other as they flew nose to nose.
About 10 feet above and to left of 7. We're just flying nose to nose, approximately 15 feet apart. Roger. We can very clearly see the right scanners operating. Roger. Yep.
At one point, Schirra saw a strap hanging from the Gemini 7 capsule.
Stop draping on me. Where are they hanging from? Frank, it looks like it comes out of the separation plate. It might be the fiberglass. It's approximately 10 to 15 feet long. The separation plate from the booster, right? That's exactly where you have one, too.
And so it went on as the 2 craft flew around each other with the spacemen talking and snapping pictures. If the accomplishments of the United States in space during 1965 seem to recall the days of Buck Rogers, even they seem to pale alongside the flurry of reports of unidentified flying objects, or as some call them, flying saucers. The reports came from many places throughout the Mid and Southwest, like this report from Deputy Sheriff Everett Tucker of Wellington, Kansas.
Had a call out of Wichita says it's been confirmed on these objects, and my wife and I were out on the road, but we did see this object to the east, and it was a big round flame, you know, and there was vapor going out the back, but it looked like fire, not
Produced and directed by
vapor smoke. And it was a long ways off, but it's pretty big. Well, it was enormous. It looked like a horse tank, right?
Deputy Sheriff
Space officials called it ridiculous. But was it mass hypnosis, overactive imagination, an experimental spacecraft, or a new military weapon? Was it theirs or ours? Or was it really a visitor from outer space? Who's to know? With all that happened in 1965, almost anything is believable.